not only the midterms coming up in November, big elections to be sure, but we've got another election coming up even sooner. It happens next week. July 28th is Election Day. The special election in Georgia's 13th congressional district. This is the race to fill out the remainder of the late Representative David Scott's term in Congress. The long-serving Georgia Democrat died in office earlier this year. The winner of this special election will serve out the remainder of Representative Scott's term. That runs until January of 2027. There are 5 eligible candidates in this race. We have interviewed 4 of them. We're about to interview the 5th candidate in this race. It's Cesar Gonzales, who's a Republican. He's running in this special election. He joins us now live. Cesar, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Let's start here. Big race coming up. You're almost there. Election Day is just a few days away right now. Why are you running to represent Georgia's 13th congressional district?
Well, there's a myriad of reasons why, but we'll start with the fact that the 13th congressional district has been represented by the Democrat Party for the last 20 plus years. And you could see just by walking down, for example, walking down Tara Boulevard, or walking down 138, that there's been a significant decline in the quality of life in the 13th district. I think when you have a single party representing a community for as long as the Democrats have in the 13th district, the priority shifts from the constituents to the needs and concerns of the party. So I am running to make the appropriate changes to rejuvenate and relift the community.
You talk about making the appropriate changes. Obviously, there are lots of issues in any moment when we're talking about politics. But as you see it right now, what is the number one issue facing the 13th congressional district right now?
Well, the incumbent party talks about bringing $15.5 billion in resources into the district, yet for some reason it doesn't seem to hit the streets. One of my main platform issues is, of course, accountability and oversight of federal resources coming in. You can't have appropriations coming in to address societal issues without first addressing the culture of corruption that exists at a legislative level in the 13th district.
That's a pretty serious accusation. I suspect the Democrats and the Democratic Party and the late Congressman David Scott would push back on that. When you talk about corruption, what specifically are you alleging?
Well, that the funding, the resources that are coming in are just being either reallocated or mismanaged. Okay, nowhere is that more apparent than, I'll give you an example, when in South Fulton, which at the time was in the 13th district, we have a Job Corps facility that had received $55 million in resources for construction. Here it is 8, 9 years later, and it's a mud pit. You have an affordable housing development in Lovejoy that after 11 years and millions of dollars, you've got 5 houses built. When $706 million comes into the state for homelessness between 2018 and 2022, you would think we would make significant strides in addressing those issues, these homeless encampments that seem to be just growing. Yet the only resource that the homeless are offered are counseling.
When
Counseling
you talk
fine,
about,
but
oh, go ahead, Mr. Gonzales. I apologize.
no, I'm following.
Well, I just wanted to follow up on that, and then I want to ask you some other specific questions here. But you point to, I think you said about $700 million of funding coming into Georgia aimed at addressing homelessness here. You've clearly made a point of alleging mismanagement on the part of Democrats, but if that money's coming statewide for this initiative, Georgia's government is led by Republicans. Do you also blame Republicans?
Well, unfortunately, Republicans aren't in control of the 13th congressional district, and my priority and my focus is the 13th congressional district. We already know that the funds are in fact coming in. Those resources are in fact coming into the district. They're just not hitting the streets.
Let's, Mr. Gonzalez, let me ask you this. We've covered a lot of ground here. We haven't quite gotten to this, though. A big topic is affordability, the cost of living here in Georgia and all across the country. If you are elected, you go to Congress to represent Georgia's 13th congressional district, what are you going to do to make living in Georgia more affordable?
Well, the my focus, of course, is the 13th congressional district. So my priorities are to facilitate the district to make it more attractive for industry, for manufacturing. Right now, we have an issue with data centers being built in the district. The problem we have with data centers is you have a facility that takes up a lot of real estate, absorbs a lot of infrastructure and resources, but only produces 5 to 15 jobs. If you have a manufacturing facility which hires 100 to 1,000 people, you of course have a consequent rise in median incomes. You have feeder businesses, suppliers around the periphery, which, and again, increases the median income. You're raising the revenue pool by which to draw from. So you don't, you have a much more, you have a greater pool to affect issues in the district. So you're not raising millage rates just to be able to make ends meet here, to meet budgets and what have you. You have in the 13th congressional district. You also have of all the workers in the district, only 2.9% are skilled laborers. We need to bring in more vocational training for both later students as well as displaced workers. When a manufacturer wants to locate in the district, say somebody like Rivian, one of the first things they look at is the skilled worker base available. So they're not bringing it in; they can just hire directly from the community. You can only imagine what that does for the quality of life in the district, your revenue pool, and your median incomes.
And Mr. Gonzalez, you bring up data centers here. That's been a big focus for a lot of folks here in Georgia and all across the country. Let me put this question straight up to you here. If you're elected, you go to Congress, and there was a vote before you on whether to implement a one-year moratorium on new data center construction. Would you vote for or against that?
I would vote for a moratorium, but I'm kind of privileged here. I'm in the aerospace industry, so I know that there's coming technologies that will render terrestrially based data centers obsolete. We're looking at within 3 to 5 years. So you got to ask yourself, what are we doing here? What's incentivizing this sudden influx of data centers in the communities? And it almost asks you to look into it further.
And Mr. Gonzalez, you bring up your background. You're wearing a NASA shirt there. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and why you feel that you're qualified to lead the 13th?
Absolutely. I'm originally from New York. I was awarded a state. I grew up in a boys' home. I lived on the streets. Fast forward to the present, where I'm an engineer working in the U.S. space program here in Cape Canaveral.
And you say you're
You
working
know, I
in Cape Canaveral. Just to be clear, you live? Do you live here in the 13th?
I used to live in the third. I lived in the 13th district for 26 years until I was gerrymandered out. My residence is still in Georgia. I just work down here.
Where in Georgia do
One
you
of the
live?
things in Douglasville.
All right. And I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead, sir.
No, that's okay. But just to summarize, I epitomize the American dream. I came from nothing. And here I am working in the U.S. space program. anyone can achieve anything in this wonderful country. What I want to do, what I feel my calling is in Congress, is to create those avenues, those pathways, so everybody can realize those dreams without all of the barriers that we seem to encounter, whether it be societal, economic, or what have you. When you have a party that has been in power for the last 20 something years, it would seem that their priority is to create dependency rather than growth. I'm the antithesis to that. I want to create growth, create independence, give the power back to the people rather than the party.
If you're elected and you go to Washington, D.C., another issue that would likely be before you is the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, the war against Iran. You, if you win this race, would likely be called on to cast a vote on a war powers resolution. Would you support or oppose the continuation of the war against Iran?
I would support it. I have to say that this conflict with Iran has been going on for a very long time, although it has not been as explosive, if I could use the term, as it is today. Iran has been supporting terrorist organizations for quite a while now, whose interests are to bring down those U.S. interests as well as those in Israel. This is not, you know, our allies are being terrorized by Iran as well. So now we have a situation to where we're directly engaging them. We're finding out they've been targeting people on U.S. soil, including the current president. I often ask people, I say, well, what would you do if somebody was targeting you for annihilation? Would you just sit there or would you actually take action? And I think the current action being taken is not only justified, but is long overdue.
Would you support putting U.S. troops on the ground in Iran?
Eventually, it may be necessary, but for a very short term. I'm not a fan of long term conflicts. I want go in there, sweep and clear, get out.
All right, Mr. Gonzales, we want to be respectful of your time here, and we are short on time. We want to end with this, a question we always ask at the end of candidate interviews like this one. We're coming up close to Election Day. It's just a few days away now. July 28th, Tuesday, is Election Day in this special election. To a voter out there who is still undecided, your closing pitch to them would be what?
We have been dealing with 20 years of decline in the 13th congressional district. It's time for a change. It's time to vote on principles, not on party. I ask you for your vote, and I will represent you directly. I have a direct line. You can reach me anytime. My website is Cesar Gonzales for Congress.com, all lowercase. Reach out. Like I said, if elected, I work for you. It's not the other way around. So I will be available. And I had your interests and concerns are my priority. Thank you.
All right, Cesar Gonzales, Republican running in the special election in Georgia's 13th congressional district. Thank you very much for your time and your perspective, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.